goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the
Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of the best, most positive Dolphins show on all the internet, the Fins Bandwagon. Good evening, Overreaction Bandwagoners. I'm your host, Evan Posner of the Fins Bandwagon, and with me is my backseat driver, my dad, Pops, Fish Tank Hank. How you doing, Hank?
Make a left, hit the brakes. You know, we're here to overreact, so I'm just trying to make sure I stick with the theme. You know what I mean?
I know. We're going to be overreacting with positivity because that's what we do here on the Overreaction Fins Bandwagon, because I'm telling you, since that Falcons game, it has been one overreaction after another, and the icing was on the cake today. But before we get to that, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. I mean, you know, it's a nice night. Things are a little cooler here in Orlando today, which is nice. It's been kind of a heat stretch, and now we're starting to get into a little lull. Hopefully that hot weather from out west doesn't come over this way.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Because it's hot out there, I hear.
I know.
Too.
You know, I just got back like 3 hours ago from New York City. I spent a couple days there with the family. Got to see amazing show, Back to the Future. Anyone who ever is in New York City, go see that show on Broadway. Phenomenal. Got to walk around Times Square, Soho, Tribeca. Took my kids, the Statue of Liberty area, like just to give them more experiences. We love New York City. It's only a 6-hour drive, so it actually breaks up the week. It's the end of the summer for us, but it was really a lot of fun. And while I was there, to keep myself positive no matter what, today I'm wearing my brand new authentic Lionel Messi Inter Miami jersey, because right now he is the toast of the Miami right now, not so much the Miami Dolphins, but we're here today to cheer on our Miami Dolphins and talk about all the overreactions. I'm awful with it because I troll it a lot, but come on, guys. Honestly, it's August 17th. We still have another 3.5 weeks before the football season starts. Yes, there's been some weird things that have happened over the last couple of days, but that's what training camp is for. And then anyways, we're used to this. We're Miami Dolphins fans. We're used to the ups and downs. If we didn't,
you got to have the heart attack going.
Exactly. If you don't have a heart attack, you're not a Dolphins fan. You're not a Dolphins fan, guys. So anyways, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to have a lot of fun. Obviously, the first thing we're going to talk about, even though we'll talk about the game that happened last week, a little bit of what's happened in the joint practices with the Texans, and we're going to preview the Texans game this upcoming weekend. Let's first talk about Terron Armstead. But before we do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to just enjoy the show and be part of the show. And we'll drop the links over the next couple of weeks so you guys can really be a part of the Finstock Sports Network. So the big scare as I was driving home from New York today was all of a sudden a little message came in through a show that was being done by Rob this morning along with Steve Malloy and Papa Paul and that group. And they wrote that he said that Terron Armstead has been carted off the field. And I go, wait, Terron Armstead carted off the field? What's he doing on the field? This is a guy who I want wrapped in bubble tape. He does not need to practice. He does not need to play. We know about him. But all of a sudden, on one simple play going to his right on the outside zone, he couldn't get up and could not put weight. And all of a sudden, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, exploded. All the different shows I was watching were losing their minds. The season is over. Same old Dolphins.
Yeah.
Where were you? For me, I was just sitting there laughing, and I go to myself, I better just stay focused and stay positive on the road. What was your first reaction when you heard that Terron Armstead was carted off? What was your first reaction?
I was like, uh-oh. Watch out, Greer. Watch out. There's cracks in the dike.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put some plugs in it. Better be careful. That was my first reaction. Be careful, because I don't know that we have a whole bunch of depth at left tackle. So that's why I'm just like, be careful. But we do have a lot of players that we brought into. And the other part where I wasn't really overly concerned is because we're not done. People have to cut their teams down to the 53-man roster. So there's still plenty of players we can pick up. So I'm not concerned is where I was.
I was sort of being sucked into I was being sucked in as I was driving to people completely losing their mind. Terron Armstead last year was the key to that line. And he was always there when Tua was there. So the first thing I actually thought of wasn't actually about Terron Armstead. It was more about Tua. Because Tua needs Terron Armstead because Terron Armstead leads that line. And unfortunately, on our ground perspective, he is one of the most key components on this roster. When we lost Jalen Ramsey, he was a luxury piece, phenomenal player, number one corner in the league, but he was the luxury because Keiko, who was developing, Trill Williams was coming back, McKinnon was coming back. Yes, he's going to make our defense phenomenally better, but he was a luxury piece. But Terron Armstead is that glue. The same way if you lose Tua, you lose Armstead. Those are the two key components that are very key to your success of your year.
Definitely.
However, Terron Armstead, he said he wanted to practice, so you have to rely on what he has. But we all have to be not surprised by this because in the end, actually, in the event that it was actually going to happen, I'd rather it happen now, get him more ready, and then he'll be ready for the season versus this happening after the second or third game, and then we lose him mid-year. We need him for game one, but as long as he now knows what the potential problem is, we know for sure we're not going to see him till week one at the earliest. But let's just get him healthy for week one. And the fact that he was walking and talking, that's the key for me.
Well, he said himself that he's going to try for week one in a tweet. So, I mean, if he's saying that, and look how many times this guy has been hurt and he still plays. He still steps up to the plate and plays every single time. Look, for me, if he's still hurt week one, sit out, let him go a week without you. I know it's going to suck, but it's the Chargers. You got to do something if the guy's still hurt and be ready. We have 2 preseason games, so we can find somebody to fill that gap. I'm not concerned yet.
Yeah, but for me, the one thing that really caught my eye about this one is just I have a feeling that Terron Armstead doing the post of him walking, and then they saw a video of him go on the crutches. I think that was actually the Miami Dolphins Twitter, knowing that their team overreacts and loses their mind every time something happens. And I think they sort of did this to appease the Miami Dolphin fans to calm everybody down because that's what we do. Like, if you think about it, we're going to get to it in a little bit, the reaction we have to the littlest thing. You were at the game, and I didn't have a chance to talk about it yet, but you were at the game. It's the reaction to what happened at that game, which we'll talk about, is exactly how Miami Dolphins react, right? So in the end, for me, if we want to talk about the whole offensive line, the one thing that's been good about the offensive line is that it seems that Leonard Cotton is doing well at left guard because we know Eichenberg is not necessarily there. Robert Jones is a key backup. And then the person that's been most impressive for me is Kendall Lamb. Kendall Lamb was supposed to be sort of the person we're pushing towards right tackle if Austin Jackson doesn't sort of work out. But Austin Jackson seems to be holding his own with Jalen Phillips and the team on the right side. So if Armstead is not there, Isaiah Wynn could be a swing, but Kendall Lamb did well for us last year at the end of the year, and I think he can do well for us this year. So,
from something I read, not to interrupt you, but from something I read,
how much you want.
Something I read said that Eichenberg is going to be put on the shelf.
Yeah, he doesn't seem right. He might be hurt.
If that's true, I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah. That's something I read on Twitter.
No, I think I heard that too, because people are not convinced. Like, people are now saying, was he struggling during all the joint practices and during the first preseason game because he was injured or something? But he is not living up to snuff. But it seems that Austin Jackson is sort of holding his own. Yeah. And for me, I have no problem with Kendall Lamb being the swing tackle and then Isaiah Wynn being the swing guard. Let Cotton get settled, because there's been a lot of talk also about this gentleman by the name of Dalton Reisner, who has started 62 of 64 games with the Broncos. The problem with him is he's looking for money. The problem also is he doesn't play the outside his own scheme. So, yes, he might be a great player, and that we may have to sort of figure that out. Any help on the offensive line will be fine. But in the end, we could put Greer on a level where people can criticize him. But at the end of the day, Frank Smith is supposed to be an offensive line guru. Mike McDaniel is supposed to be an offensive juggernaut genius, and Butch Barry also comes from experience with offensive line. That's the one thing I want to get out of the way. We all have criticisms of Chris Greer. That's fine. We're all concerned. But in the end, if an area is struggling, like the same way, if you're struggling with something at work, if I'm struggling with solving a problem, where do I go? I go to my boss and say, I need this, and this is why I need this. So if Mike McDaniel or Frank Smith feel they need someone on that level to improve their offensive line, they'd go do it. So in the end, yes, Chris Greer on his own can go get whoever he wants, but we know there's a symbiotic relationship between him and McDaniel.
Fins up, everybody.
What's up, Ender? What's up, Thirsty? Great show this morning. So for me and Steve, we've got great pictures from training camp. Thank you for the Tua pictures. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, and what's his name? Jalen Phillips. I'm telling you, that guy's got a butt like I've never seen in my life. Holy cramoly! But I must say though, that in the end, this is a unison team, right? Like that's what I want to say. Like the same way we're a family, they talk. There's no way that we'll talk about another player who they're looking at today who came for a visit. I think every player, a Jalen Ramsey signing is a Vic Fangio type of signing. David Long, then you go get chosen. That is a Mike McDaniel, Wes Welker kind of thing. Like, there's no way they do this on their own. If you really need a player to go get someone, they're going to do it. So for me, the whole overreaction of everything is I think just part of the Dolphins lore. But why do you think it is? Do you think it's because, for me, I think it's because we've been so disappointed. Like, if this didn't happen, we'd all be saying, we're waiting for the shoe to drop. I'd rather the shoe drop now, or the so-called football drop on Armstead and these guys.
Yeah.
Now, and figure out, because then what it allows you to do is it allows you to get your depth going now, because now you know for the next 3 weeks you went to go get an Eli Apple, you can go move Kader Kohu and Nick Needham or Troy Williams to a certain area. Brandon Jones is not there, so they're trying to figure out things with Jason Elliott, or they're going to move people around. That's what they need to do now. The last thing you and I want, remember when we did this with Brian Flores, where they used to sign a guy on Tuesday and start him on Sunday, right? Like, yeah. It never. So anyway, so what are your thoughts on the whole overreaction? Like, are you more relieved it's happening now, or would you prefer it to happen later in the year? I'd rather it happen now.
I like it. I like it happening now. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like people getting hurt and all that. But you know, you got to look at the bright side of it. Like you said, it's happening early enough where we can get people in, and that's why I didn't get too overly concerned. Like I said, there's cracks in the dike, and you know, Greer better put bodies in those places is the point that I'm trying to make with my earlier tweet. You know, if he doesn't put bodies in the place, then we're going to have issues, and that's his job. Him and the rest of the talent crew is to put the bodies into place, and the coaches to wean them in or out and get rid of whoever we don't need. And like I said before, we're going to have that 53-man cut down soon. And once you have that, you have excess players that all teams are watching. All teams are watching because you have some teams that are heavy at left guard. So what happens when they have a left guard that's their third string that nobody's using, that might be usable, that somebody sees in preseason, you know, things like that. So I'm not that concerned about it. I don't think people should be overly concerned about it until, you know, the season starts. When the season starts, that's when we can be concerned and this and that. We know we lost Ramsey. That's a given now. We don't even have to think about that anymore. It's a total given. He's out until at least December, from the sounds of it. So I'm good with that, though, you know, because we have people to back up. And they just brought in, like you said, the guy from the chart. Was it the Chargers?
I was about to bring that up, so I can bring that up now. So everyone who didn't know yet, they need depth at cornerback, and this is another Vic Fangio, and I think there's a Ronaldo Hill, and I think it's brilliant because who are we facing week 1? The LA Chargers. Bryce Callahan, who has played for 7 years. He has played for the Chargers. He played for multiple years under Vic Fangio. He played under Ronaldo Hill last year. He's a very solid slot corner which helps against with Ramsey, because if Ramsey's not there to protect the tight ends, you can put Callahan there, and you can focus Kohu more on the other side until Cam Smith is all good. He actually had 11 starts for the Chargers last year. His best season came when he was in 2020. But one thing that he did very, very well then is, he held the quarterbacks to a passer rating of under 50. And there's a lot of familiarity with the scheme. So the scheme that Tua struggled with most, and the offense and McDaniel struggled with most last year, to bring in Bryce Callahan, and the Miami Dolphins, they bring in somebody for a visit who's a Vic Fangio guy. I predict this guy will be signed by Monday.
Probably. You're probably right.
And I'm very happy with that. I'm very, very happy with that.
I'm good with it. I like the direction we're going. That means that somebody's doing their job too.
Yeah.
So
because people could talk about the offensive line as much as they want. No team, with the exception of maybe the Chiefs, who were able to adjust it after they lost Super Bowl to the Buccaneers, and the the Eagles, and maybe there's one or other two teams there that might have maybe the Cowboys. A lot of the offensive line, they're so hard to find. Like, if you look at what happened today, we will talk about the joint practices, but today Jalen Phillips was putting George Fant on his butt over and over and over. It doesn't matter what team you're on. These offensive linemen, whoever they are it is what it is. The offensive line is very hard. You have to develop them. You have to find ways. They do not grow on trees, and they're very hard to find. That's why we didn't settle for Terron Armstead, but that's why Terron Armstead cost us a lot of money, but we knew what we were getting with him. We knew he's never played a full season, but he was worth it, because it's how hard it is to find a tackle of that caliber. It's very, very, very hard to find. So anyways, what are your thoughts on that? But what do you think about the Bryce Callahan concept? What's up, Chris?
About the Callahan concept?
No. What do you think about bringing him in? Like, what do you think about adding even more depth? Because even what's his name? Steve said, like, this is a wake up call for Greer, and that maybe Fangio is not satisfied with Eli Apple. But I think Eli Apple is more on the outside. I think they're bringing in Bryce Callahan more to develop the scheme in the middle, to get to protect against tight ends and not such. What do you think? What's up?
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. And you got to have depth. Without depth, your team, we know that right now. Look at T Steady, he's out, right? So you got to have depth. It's just that simple. And so, like Steve Malloy saying, Phillips was a beast today. We have other players. We have other players. So it's not like our whole defense falls apart. But, Armstead obviously is a key piece, and people get concerned about that. I can understand people's concern, but at the same time, I'm not going to get overly concerned because we haven't started the season yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to develop too much, and then you can maybe give one more point. But about the last game, I don't like to look backwards. We don't like to look backwards. But the one thing I do hope to see coming up, because the one thing that did frustrate me with the offense in the preseason game, because I don't look at preseason games as games of needing to win. Because if we ever relied on preseason games needing to win, no one would have thought that the Eagles had a chance, because the Eagles last year against the Miami Dolphins and Skylar Thompson easy got their butts destroyed. So you can't look at it from that perspective. It's about development. The one thing we realized in that first game is that they need a lot more reps for Mike White and for Skylar Thompson, because for those two, they were struggling against backups. And I want to continue to remind me is that Mike McDaniel has a very difficult scheme, and it's not easy to grasp. And I still think that they're trying to develop the scheme even for Tua, and these other guys are trying to develop into it. And so for me, hopefully the Houston game, this was a learning experience. They're looking at tape. They're looking at what's going on this week, and they'll develop it. But for you, did that give you a lot of concern for the backup quarterback, or you think that's just smoke?
It concerned me, the fact that you're turning it over in the red zone. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like you said, you're doing it against second stringers. Why are you turning the ball over against second stringers in the red zone? Yeah. I mean, if you're looking to get a job, that's not a good way to get it. But
no,
you're there to be evaluated. That's what they're there for. They're there to be evaluated, whether they like it or not. They're under the microscope to see okay, who are we going to put in when it hits the fan? And they want to know. And they'll get their answers, on what they know and what they don't know, because they already know enough about Skyler. So it's just a matter of getting a little more info on White, I'm sure. And between the two, they'll figure it out. And you'll see by the third preseason, it'll all be kind of settled out.
Exactly. For me, the one thing that was nice to see is that we do have multiple runners. It was nice to see that we do have multiple people who can take the ball back, to see A-Chain and to see Barrios back there. That's really important for me. So for me, there were a lot. What I saw there was a lot of individual key positives that you and Bobby talked about on Fins Talk today, which was important to see. Easy coming out for the backfield. I love to see that. I think that's really his bread and butter, where he can be successful as a fifth or sixth receiver. A-Chain, whether he got 2.5 yards, I just want to see his development. I liked what I saw. Barrios in the slot, I think that's great. So for me, it's really, really great. And so nice to see Steve and saying nice things. Mr. Real talk about AJ, about Austin Jackson. And the win, I think, was just a depth piece. I think he'll be fine. And it was nice for him and Chris to meet today, which is nice. And Buc-ee's, the picture of Buc-ee's there is a great place. When I drive down to Florida, you always stop at a Buc-ee's. I'm telling you, it's great there. But for me, in terms of this week, the other two topics I want to talk about before we talk about the Houston and joint practices are the two things that a lot of people, other reactions, the overreactions on Twitter this week is Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook, before I give my perspective, are you relieved? Are you upset that Dalvin? What would you react? Are you upset that Dalvin Cook is not a Dolphin? Are you more upset that he's not a Jet? Or are you just relieved that the whole saga is over? Which one?
Wow. I think I'm a mix of those, to be honest with you, because I'm upset that Miami didn't offer him $6 to $7 million. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm elated that the whole saga's over, but I'm a little ticked off that we let him go to the Jets. So, I'm a little bit of a mix there. I couldn't pick just one on that one. That's where I'm at with it, to be totally honest with you. I think we should have had him on the team. I wanted him on the team, but that's okay. Again, it's another luxury item that we're without. And after a while you lose your luxury items and then you're down to skin and bones, is my point. So at some point in time you want to be glamping, not camping, some people, So
I'm exactly where you are. Ezekiel Elliott, I'm not that concerned, but he made New England better because he's better than what they have. Dalvin Cook makes the Jets better than what they have. Cook on our team, because of the offensive line being of concern, Dalvin Cook is the kind of runner like a Jonathan Taylor, like an Austin Eckler, like a Derrick Henry, where he's the type of guy, Christian McCaffrey, where the offensive line, they can survive and do well without a superstar offensive line. And that's why I felt he could be useful. And I would not have given him 8.6. So if he can make up to 8.6, I had a limit of two years, 12 million, maybe get him to 7 max. So the 8.6 I think is a little rich. What frustrates me is the fact that he's in our conference, in our division, and is another pain in the butt that we have to deal with, because now we're still dealing with by committee. But there are still Kareem Hunts out there and Leonard Fournette. I like what Eric said, that we should sign Fournette, and because Mostert, I believe, will get hurt. Not hurt, but him and Wilson are not consistent people who don't get hurt. Gaskin did a nice job, but I think all he really did was improve his trade value in the first preseason game. And Ahmed is just a depth piece. So A-Chain is not going to be ready to lead the ball. I know it will be Mostert's ball first game, but we know what's going to happen with Mostert. It just happens to him every year. There's a reason why over the years he has not been, he'd still be a 49er if he was a consistent running back for 12 years, because he did well when in spurts, but he was never consistent. So for me, I'm happy the Cook saga's over. I'm just, like you said, we're disappointed that he's a Jet, because anything New York Jets, trust me, when I was in New York, I purposely wore Miami Dolphins gear everywhere I could possibly go. anywhere I could be, I wore Dolphins because and anytime I saw a Jet person, I stood in front of them and held it up. Like fins up. I would say it's fins up to every person who wore a Jets jersey. I swear to God. So for me, I'm happy it's over. I think that in the end, who knows? He could be a Dolphin next year. I think it's actually going to create a little more confusion in the room because if Breece Hall is ready, there's going to be interfighting there because I think there's going to be a problem there. But it is what it is. The other elephant in the room and the big overreaction is the fact that where's Christian Wilkins? And you want to know what? I love
He's right where he should be.
I love my Miami Dolphins, Hank. Pops, I love my Miami Dolphins. But this is where people could put this on Greer. I know maybe he was looking for Fangio to see whether or not Wilkins fit in the scheme because it has been a decade and a half since the Dolphins re-signed one of their defensive lineman draft picks. But because our D-line is so thin in the grand scheme of things, they don't have a lot of backups that are there, and they're trying to develop different pieces. They could have got him probably at 17 and a half, give him 50 million, get 45 guaranteed. But now with all these people who have developed between Quinn Williams and Dexter Lawrence and that group of players who have signed, he is now looking for his 50 million guaranteed. You gave Chubb 45 for almost 50 million guaranteed. He is not going to rely on. He wants to solidify things for his family. He's the first development piece since 2018. He was the first Greer draft pick. He's making 10.7 this year. He just wanted to solidify things. I think they will get it signed, but it's going to end up costing them more. So, are you understanding? Are you frustrated with Christian Wilkins? Are you understanding why he's sitting out?
Yeah. Fins up, Eric.
What's up, Eric? Yeah.
Where's his gear in Queens? Right
Yeah.
on. All right.
I drive by that.
I wave to the when you're wearing it in Queens.
I wave that Queensboro. I was waving to the Queensboro on the FDR every time I passed it today. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the whole Christian Wilkins saga and why he hasn't been signed yet?
I just think that they were waiting to see how things work right now and who they need to sign and get in the door before the season starts. I think once after the season starts, they're going to take a real look at Christian Wilkins. I mean, they're already in talks, they said. So it's Miami wants to keep him. I mean, it's the first time in a long time, like you said, that we're actually looking at keeping somebody. So it's kind of, I like it. I like it if they keep him, if they have the money to do it and all that, keep him. That's what I say. Definitely. He's like the heartbeat of the defense.
He's the glue.
Yeah.
I think in the end, there were two mistakes that people could talk about. People didn't criticize the whole fifth-year option because for Tua, $23 million is nothing for even an average quarterback. He's going to be elite for the average quarterback. But just between Ogba and Cedric Wilson, two players who they're not utilizing to their potential because there's players ahead of them, that's Christian Wilkins' money. You're talking 15 and 7. So you'd even save a little bit, probably $1 million or $2 million, but there's your money on two players. Problem is that neither of them are movable. And both of them are guaranteed their money. So that's your struggle. Is that because of the cap issues next year, that's your struggle. But in the end, between him and Sealer, they have to get them signed. Because the other issue that happened today was Brandon Peely also had an issue. So hopefully he'll be ready for the season. He also got banged up, and we need to have him behind Raekwon. So you need to find a development there. But in terms of the D-line, I want to ask you quickly about this. What are your thoughts on Ogba? Because Ogba in the Flores scheme was great. Then last year he really struggled, and now they want him to sort of act. They're not letting him put his hand in the ground in this 4-3 scheme. They're having him stand out there sort of like an outside linebacker, and he does not fit. Would you find a way to get him reps with his hand in the ground, or do you just have to trust in Fangio that they're putting him in the best place they think they need him to succeed, even though he hasn't been succeeding? And maybe Steve can give a little more because he was there live, or Chris, on what they saw from Ogba today, because the one thing I am hearing from the media is that Ogba looks out of place on this defense.
Yeah, he might not understand what Fangio's asking him to do at this point in time. And, that's why they're working out the kinks now, I would say. But you're right. He doesn't fit just solely based on what you said. He doesn't fit that scheme. If he needs his hand in the dirt, you know, you can either find a way or you find a way to get him to do it the way you need him to. And that's where the coach comes in. Now, can Vic Fangio get him to do it? I have no idea. I really don't know. But, you know, it takes a lot to get a guy that's used to pushing off like that off the ground and getting his force with his legs and his thighs pushing up. You know, there's a whole different spring coming off the ground than it is standing up and then creating that force. So, you're right. It's completely different how you attack it, and hopefully he'll do fine and they'll figure it out. But if not, you're right. You know, you're stuck with him either way. But if you have to use him and he can't convert to what you need, then you got to put him in the dirt and use him where he's useful. You got to go to players' talents to some degree.
Yeah, because Steve just even mentioned today he was on the second team as a backup. You're paying $15 million to a backup, and then you're also paying $7 million to a sixth receiver. It's a little much. So
Fins up, hammer time.
And I'd love Eric to trade both of them, but they just cost way too much money. So no one's going to eat that. And no one's going to take that on the cap, and we're not going to keep any money, so it just doesn't work. And he's a very slow-moving linebacker. He is. He needs to have his hand up right away. Like, he just needs to be on that ground. They just don't have the space for him right now. Because Sealer really came into his own. Raekwon has come into his own. They just don't have the space. There is never a dull moment in the Miami Dolphins line, but I love it because you want to know what? We'd have nothing to talk about if it wasn't excellent and it was not fun. Eric mentioned that he'd love to see what the linebackers have to do. One thing that's been talked about, and I can't wait, is they've been putting Van Ginkel in the middle because of his speed. They're seeing what he can do there. Channing Tindall still seems a little bit lost, but we'll see what he can do there. But
who's lost?
Channing Tindall.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
The thing about him, though, is that people are looking at him. Oh, he needs to be, because he would not be looked at in this light had we had first and second round. We didn't have any picks. So because we didn't have any picks in the first and second round, he looks like he's the savior of this draft last year. And I go, you can't look at it that way. Everyone develops at their own pace, and that's all we can look at. In terms of the joint practice a little bit, and then we'll talk about the game. Everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. Tua. The one thing I love, so basically yesterday he got interviewed after the first joint practice, and the fact that he said that Christian Harris, who he played with at Alabama, what he was always doing is he fake one way, look one way, and then twist. And Christian Harris bit on that and caught it to interception. And at the end of the game, he said it was just a confusion, which happened with Gesicki last year with Bridgewater, where there was confusion, and then the Petrie or pick six going back the other way. And he was very transparent about this. Why do you feel? Does this give you concern that in the red zone he's still doing similar things that he was doing last year, or do you think, once again, like we said last year, this is all smoke and mirrors, and we're just trying things out, and that there's not much to be concerned about? And should Tua be this transparent about this stuff?
Again, it's preseason, everybody. You're going to play around a little bit, aren't you? I mean, honestly, but the whole purpose of preseason is to play during the season. So you want your practice to look good too. And if that was a bad play, so what? It was a bad play. It happened, You can't have every play perfect. And if that's what you're expecting, well, you got to buy a nice giant robot that doesn't exist and stick it out there on the field to gun the ball around, because there's nobody that's going to be perfect out there. I like what he does, though. I like his talent. I like the way even though people say he's a little slow on getting rid of it, sometimes I like the fact that he takes his time and he doesn't throw it away too quick. I don't like the fact that when he does it, when he doesn't have enough time to do it, though. Yeah. That's the problem. He tries to stand in there like he's 6'6" and 260 pounds, and he's not. He's not.
No, he's not.
And now he's done this jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. So hopefully at least he knows how to take a nice big hit roll take a roll rather than absorb all that in his head by smacking his knot. Now that he's worked his neck, first thing he'll do is probably do a turtle roll.
Yeah.
So, who knows, though? We'll see.
And I've stopped the presses. Steve Valoy said how he had a good day. He's his defender. He got a nice autograph from Tua. You want to know what? Tua, you have to believe in him because in the end, last year he showed what he can do. He has to stay healthy. He has to. Even he yesterday said should have gotten rid of the ball. He should have thrown the ball to the ground. That's what I want to do. The moment he sees a defender coming, just throw the ball down. Live for another play, and that's all we want from him. We just want you to stay healthy, and we want you to be, and everything else will work itself out. Because right now, I will admit this as a bandwagoner, and you'll probably admit this too. we probably at the high level, elite level roster, we probably can have 10 Pro Bowlers. Is the second level of our team, and what is it strong? Is it? Do I consider it average? I consider it a little bit below average. Our secondary players, but in the end, we have to try something. Would you rather have? We've struggled for 20 years being an average team. Why were we average? Is we got a bunch of average players across the board, no elite players. Now, because we're signing all these elite players to expensive contracts, and Tyreek Hill, we're going to have to pay Waddle. There's Tua, there's Jalen Phillips, there's Emmanuel Ogbah, Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey. All this group. You have this core. You have this core. You have Vic Fangio as the highest paid coordinator. It doesn't count against the cap, but still. You're doing this because you're trying to win differently. And I'd rather them go for it than continue to stay average. Because unless you win the jackpot of getting Patrick Mahomes a 10th in the draft and he turns into this mega superstar, or you get Tom Brady in the 7th round and he turns into something special, you never guarantee anything. There's been so many busts. So if you have the chance to get an elite player, and also Tyreek Hill today talking about Terron Armstead, saying that he's okay, and all he admitted that he was old. Like the joy and the joking around with the team and the ambiance. In the end, I'd rather see this and the passion and the joy and the frustration and the overreaction. I understand. I'd rather people overreact than underreact. So if they're gonna do something, let them overreact, and that's all that matters to me. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to get upset every now and then too,
Yeah.
If you get upset, like I said, for me, there's cracks in the dike and he better fix it. He better fix it. And like you said, I totally agree with you. Our second level players aren't on level ground. They're a little underneath. And I agree with you there. And we're a little bit thin here and there too.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of what do you want? But like I said, they've got to figure it out. You needed preseason to come. You need the 53-man cut down to pick anybody else up. There's things that need to take time to happen. So
yeah,
I think we're fine.
Yeah, and I just want to make a very interesting point, and I wish my thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Hawaii and Maui. Tua has done a lot for that, for his heritage and what he's done. He's created a fund, and he's developed he's donated a ton of his own money. He's not just putting it out there. And honestly, I just wish them all the best, and my thoughts and prayers are with everyone. But no, he's a humble guy, and I want good people. I want good people. I want respectful people. And for me, I have a lot of faith in this team. Yes, I get frustrated. We all get frustrated, but you want to know what? In the end, it's supposed to be fun. That's why we're here. That's why we're all talking. And now the realism is about to come. Maybe El Jefe's here. Look who's here. God.
Mr. Realistic Doom and Gloom.
I produce these shows, so he doesn't come on the show. We love you. We love you, Bobby.
Mr. Doom and Gloom. Here he
Mr.
comes.
Doom and Gloom over there. Anyways, so one thing I wanted to now we'll talk about a little bit for the next few minutes before we call it a night. And guys, don't forget to continue watching. I'll be on No Holds Bar with Alfred and Alex, and we'll be fighting over the Texans and the Dolphins throughout that show as well. Talk about commitment. Hey, look at that. He's listening to his daughter's principal at school orientation, August 17th. Oh my God, I forgot the States start so much earlier than Canadians. We don't start for 2.5 weeks, us. It's crazy. But what are your expectations coming up this weekend for this week's game? First, easy question. What do you think any of the actual starters should play in this game? If so, whom? If not, should we have a repeat of what we saw last week with a little sprinkle of some of the potential starters that are trying to win jobs. What do you want to see this weekend? Do you want to see a starter out there, even for a rep, a down or two, one full team rep, or what would you want to see?
I'm a believer in whatever the coach believes in. If the coach believes we should put them out there and he puts them out there, I'm happy with it. If he doesn't want them out there, I'm happy with that too. It depends. I'm not sitting there. I'm not the coach, and I don't have the luxury to say whether the team needs reps or not. If the team needs reps, they're going to be out there. It's that simple. At some point in time, you have to get live reps and real reps in a game.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, they're going to put some of the starters out there, I would hope. You want them to get some reps, but you also don't want them to get hurt. So you make a great point. It's got to be a balance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you don't have some kind of balance, then you'll have nothing but problems. So
I would start Tua even for this game because it is Houston. No offense to Houston, but it is Houston. Even to hand off the ball, test the snaps, bring in Connor Williams, practice those snaps in the live game because that's been a struggle. Pass the ball to H and get a feel for your development. Bring in Kendall Lamb to see a few reps just to get a speed. Bring in Tyreek just to get a rep in. I wouldn't want to play after that, but to get a feel so everyone can feel confident about their offense. And I think that because the one thing that people have been less concerned about the defense during the during training camp than they have been about the offense. So I think that with Waddle, not sure. I would love to see Chosen. I'd love to see Tyreek or just something. Just I would do 2 quick checkdowns, and then if they get first downs, keep going and hand off the ball. And then on the third down, do a couple throws down the field. You have nothing to lose. Like just get the ball out quickly. And I believe Tua will play, and you should apologize to him, but I'll accept the apology on his behalf because we're the presidents of the co-president of the Dolphins bandwagon. So
you know what it is.
What?
Steve got anointed by Tua by signing the top of his hat. So now
exactly.
He's got a little blessing of the pen whip.
Exactly.
So now Steve's changed over a little bit.
No, but honestly, the defense I'm less concerned about.
We love you, Steve. We love you,
Steve.
bro.
I'm less concerned about the defense. I'm more concerned. I'd love to see the offense just get a couple reps together. I'd love to see one like full swing. Like I'd love to see Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, Lester Cotton, or is it Lester Cotton? I can't remember his first name. And Kendall Lamb. I'd love to see one rep with them, with Mostert and with Tua, and then with Hill and Chosen and Berrios because Waddle's not playing just yet. He's still a little banged up, I think. And then just give them a down. Just give people something to be joyous about because we do know the other things are going to take time and they're developing. These aren't going to be our starters. Get the people who potentially are going to be starters to play, and that's for me. He put a spell on you.
Chosen was hurt though.
No, Chosen can still play. I think he can still.
Because I saw him the first preseason, and he went out on the field and he ran around, but he couldn't play.
I think he is enjoying practices. Maybe Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the end, for me right now, I'd like to see him only because right now I know that it's Hill, it's
Fins
Waddle,
up, Cap.
It's Berrios. What's up, Cap? You've been all over the place today. I thought Steve. What's his name? Steve Daniels was going to jump off a cliff today because I got anointed because once the show was over, once Thirsty and Steve and Papa Paul got off, it alerted me that clock blockers was on, and we heard about Armstead. Clock blockers is stupid. And I know that Bobby has a connection with him. He was so down, and Cap was trying to take him off a ledge. It was amazing.
Which kind of blocker was it now?
A clock blocker.
Okay.
It's a great name for a show. Waddle wasn't dressed, but what about Chosen, Steve? What about Chosen? But honestly, Cap, everything's positive on the bandwagon because it's overreaction bandwagon night. We're the presidents, but we always bring it back down to a normal level, guys. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. You'll get to see our team. Honestly, you have to remember this team is just getting itself going. That's what training camp is for. It's just like back in the day when there were no cell phones and we used to have to dial on a rotary dial and we didn't have the internet. We had to wait for the newspaper because everything's a click away. We're so upset because the videos and eyes are on everything. Honestly, do you not think that in 1993, when that was the last time the Dolphins had a superstar team with Irving Fryar and Dan Marino and that group and Don Shula, and they had a phenomenal team, and then he tore his Achilles, and we had Scott Mitchell. That team, imagine that team in the training camp when you saw Scott Mitchell throwing the ball, and you saw all the backups, we'd be losing our minds. Right? We'd be losing our minds. Like, it's unbelievable. It's because the Dolphins, with Flores, we never got to see this. It wasn't as exposed. But like,
he didn't see Chosen.
I know. You didn't see Chosen. Oh, you didn't see Chosen today either. Okay, maybe he was on the sideline.
That's what I said. He had something going on.
Then see Cedric. Then let's see Easy E and Cedric. I don't really care. Develop them. I like Easy E a lot. What's up, Cap? No. So for me, in the end, it's because the Dolphins are so open to everything and they're so willing to share things with their fans that we overreact. But in the end, everything's going to be in the okay because it's football. It's fun. And until you lace up those boots on any given Sunday, this team, you would think that Tyreek Hill and Tua and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, you think Vic Fangio is giving away all his secrets now? You think Mike McDaniel is giving away all his secrets now?
It's going to stay vanilla.
Like, it's
going to stay vanilla the whole time. You know it, and I know it.
I want them to. I want media knock down the Dolphins. Give us 7.5 wins with Armstead potentially injured in Vegas. I don't care. I'll take that bet any day, because in the end, we'll shock the world. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Do whatever you want, because we know as a fandom that in the end, the Dolphins are in our hearts. They're on our minds. We wear them all over the place. We support each other, and in the end, we have elite players who on any given Sunday are always going to give us a chance to win no matter what. The last time we were on a football field, if it wasn't for a 4th-and-1 goof on our coach, we probably would have won that playoff game with a 3rd-string quarterback. It's unbelievable. So be positive, and our roster is better. Our roster is better. And yes, Cedric might be invisible, but Easy is not. Barrios is not. And if there's other opportunities for Craycraft or bring in another receiver, there's going to be a cut receiver, find another receiver. I don't care. There's people, by the way, and I want to remind people, the best part about the whole Dalvin Cook thing and anything, if you call up Leonard for any player tomorrow, they will sign with the Miami Dolphins, no matter what. The players that are not being signed by the Miami Dolphins now are players that the team has consciously chosen thus far not to put on their roster. But right now, it's not because players don't want to come play for Miami. It's because Miami is not necessarily ready to have them on the team because they think they have the team that they need to win. Whether you disagree with that or not, it's a very popular destination to want to be.
I don't disagree that they think that they have it, but I think they still need to tweak it more.
Yeah, I know, of course. But that's what the next 3 weeks are for. There's a reason why Bryce Callahan, like I told you, Bryce Callahan is going to be a Miami Dolphin by Monday. He's a Ronaldo Hill guy. He's a Vic Fangio guy. We all knew the whole Bradley Chubb concept last year. He struggled. Wait till you see him in Vic Fangio's defense. He's a Vic Fangio draft pick. You don't think he's going to be good with Vic Fangio?
Let me ask you something, Evan.
Go for it.
Wouldn't it be fun if next week they come out and the full offense walks out, minus T-Steady, of course.
Yeah.
The full offense walks out, Tua steps back and throws it downfield. Tyreek Hill deuces up and goes for a touchdown. All right?
Backflip.
Everybody would be fine with that, and everybody walk off the field and call it a day, right?
People call it Super Bowl. By the way, if we see a touchdown drive from Tua, people are going to be back on the Super Bowl. That's what we do. We wake up on a high, we end up on a low. High, low, high. Like now, people think we're all good now because Steve Petty's gonna be ready for the
That's how it works when you're a 9-8 team. When you're a 9-8 team, you experience the high highs and the low lows.
You made a great point. We're 53 men, and because one man fell and hurt his leg today, season's over. Except for I'm going to tell you guys this right now. Except for a quarterback. Except for the quarterback, no other position. There's a very, very fundamental problem with the people who believe that. If you believe that anyone outside of a quarterback is, unless you have a superstar development quarterback behind you, whether it was Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith, or you have someone like Aaron Rodgers after Brett Favre, unless you have that luxury, or end up being Drew Bledsoe with Tom Brady, unless you have that luxury, except for the quarterback, every team should be able to continue to move on. To win games with every position, with depth, except for the quarterback. Because if you remember, when we did 7 yards a carry, when we did when we had decent running games, when our average 4.9 yards for most from Wilson, 4.7, a lot of the teams were without Armstead. So in the end, we are. And last year, 29th in pressures, 30th in almost what it. In the end, our offensive line wasn't as bad. It's just because it sticks out like a sore thumb because it's been a struggle under Flores. So now we expect this huge jump. But the Jets, do you think Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook are going to have open lanes with that team? They don't have a right tackle. They don't have a set. Their defense might be stacked, but their offensive line isn't any better than Miami Dolphins. Maybe the Patriots are a little bit better, but the Bills aren't that much better. It's not there. So we thought it was over when we lost Ramsey. Exactly. I'm telling you, are you going to watch this? Watch what happens. You wake up tomorrow, and what's going to happen if Austin Jackson has an ingrown toenail and can't play for 2 weeks? Or is it over because we lost our right tackle? No, it's a player. Except for the QB, the only person who will concern me right now is quarterback. That's the only position I'm worried about. Everywhere else,
you keep losing players like your right tackle and your left tackle, if you continue to lose those players, you're not going to have a quarterback.
No, but at least they had development. They have other players there. Last year, they had to go get a Brandon Shell. They had to go get a Kendall Lamb. They don't have to do that right now. Now they have weeks to be able to do it. So for me, I don't look for victory. I'm not worried about a victory on Sunday. It would just be nice to throw it in Alex and Alfred's face from No Holds Bar, who are huge Texans fans. But overall, I just want to see development of the players. I want to see no pre-snap penalties. I want to see quick throws. I don't want to see people holding onto the ball. I want to see touchdowns in the red zone or at least field goals. I just want to see that development. Like for me, the one positive I didn't bring up, and we made a joke at the beginning, MVP for Jason Sanders, is the fact that I saw him even in a preseason game with Jake Bailey kicking a 50-yarder like it was nothing. That's positive for me. Let him be able to do that. If he's able to do that, all the better. So for me, I expect a very, very different result for the Miami Dolphins.
Let me ask you a question, Evan.
Yeah.
So do you like it or not like it when McDaniel goes for it on fourth down a lot?
Love it.
I'll tell you right now, when I'm sitting in the stadium and he calls it, my heart is about to beat through my chest when
because even if it's 35 or less, because for me with Jason Sanders right now and the way because this is the kind of offense that could score points. If it's Mike White in the preseason, regular season, if it was Mike White or Skylar Thompson, I'd kick. If it's Tua, every time I think about it, it's the game. It's the throw to Waddle on fourth against the Bills, or it wasn't. I forget who it was against. Maybe it wasn't against the Bills at home last year. But when you were at that game, but when they go for fourth with Tua and that quick scheme and that, as long as they don't throw a slant across the same sideline, I'm good. But if they get a Leonard Fournette or they get a Kareem Hunt or they get I think that they should be able to go for it. I think for me, I'm more nervous with the clock management than I am with going with 4th and 1 with McDaniel. So in the end, I need to get his address, or if someone can give me the direct address to the Bathurst Health Complex, or if I can maybe send it to Hank and Hank can drop it off with security and say this is a gift from the Fins Sports Network. Here's a Timex watch, or maybe he can borrow Vic Fangio's. He must still wear one. I'm sure he still has those. But honestly, for me, all I want to see is development. That's all I want to see. So for me, I'm willing to go on 4th down, try things out. You have nothing to lose. How about tight end position? That's going to be important in the red zone. I still think they're going to pick someone up. Someone's going to get cut because it can't just be Durham Smythe. Saubert is not working out there. I don't see it. Tanner Connor's not going to be ready. He's going to be on IR. So for me, I would go find someone. It's not just the injuries, top talent crucial positions, which could really hurt us. Yeah, you're 100% Martina. Well, we said that earlier in the show. We're very top heavy, but that's how we're going to win. You need to have those stars. Ingold, I'm not worried about Ingold. Ingold will be ready for the season. I'm not worried about Ingold. Ingold is the star course of our team. He's going to be fine. He played in the first few weeks, so he'll be ready for week 1. But overall, it's been a fun overreaction week. It's a lot. It's crazy how insane we all are about this, but we just need to keep a level head until tomorrow morning. So tonight, everyone go to sleep with the thought that Terron Armstead is going to be okay, that all is right with the world. The Miami Dolphins are just fine. You get a day off tomorrow before the game on Saturday. Just relax, have fun. Any final words for the Fins Sports Network before you go, Hank? Call it a night?
No. I'm gonna get a new tattoo. I'm gonna
Where are
get
you
a new
putting it?
tattoo, and it's gonna be
Of what?
somehow robot Dolphins related.
Very cool.
I went and
Very cool.
found there's a #1 shop in Orlando, and
Very
it
cool.
has this gentleman named Curtis Ulrich. He's one
Very
heck
cool.
of an artist.
Very cool.
He's on Instagram as Curtis
Keep me
Ulrich.
posted. Awesome.
He is definitely a talented man, and I had to wait a
Awesome.
year just to have a consultation. So
good for you. Enjoy it.
So-
everyone, I will. Good luck. For me, I'm continuing to cheer for Inter Miami. Big game this weekend. They're in the Champions game this weekend. Not for the MLS, but another Champions where they're doing very, very well. Everything Miami, everything's going to be fine. They're going to win on Sunday. We're going to see development. We're going to see some of the starters. Guys, just breathe. Armstead's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. If you need a laugh, just go watch Tyreek Hill in an interview today. He is just a laugh a minute. Just have fun. Just don't forget to like and subscribe. And always, before I find the outgoing thing, because I always forget to do this because I'm having so much fun with all of you, fins up, everyone.
Fins up.